So hello everybody, we'll make a start now. Welcome to our webinar entitled Migrating PDF Forms and WebDynpro Processes to Fiori App Processes. This is the first in a series of 6 short webinars in which we will be looking at Fiori-based solutions to business challenges. My name is Chris Scott and I'm a director at Arch. Arch is a software company specializing in SAP user experience and process integration. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Liam Clark, who is a technical analyst at Barnsley Metropolitan Borough Council, and by Jennifer Davis, our own Director of Product Development, and we'll be hearing from them later on. We are recording today's session, which should last around 30 minutes, and we will be happy to make the recording available to you afterwards. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section on your screen, and we will try to address those at the end of the session. I'm keeping the agenda fairly simple today. We'll kick off by discussing the need and some of the high-level business challenges of moving to Fiori. Then I will introduce our solution, StayLow, and explain how it addresses those challenges. And finally, we will take a look at a couple of real examples. So why bother? I'll not go into great detail about the differences between PDF forms and WebDynpros. We have a wealth of experience of helping customers migrate from these older technologies to SAP Fiori. The business drivers we see to move away from these approaches include, first of all, limited browser support, so we don't all want to be stuck on Internet Explorer forever. Mobile device support, people want to get work done on a variety of devices. Performance, so we've seen some pretty horrendous performance issues, particularly with PDF rendering. SAP's direction, SAP is investing heavily in Fiori. Customers really don't want to invest in older technologies. And of course, design thinking. Fiori gives us an opportunity to revisit the way we get things done and to redesign working practices and tools around users. So now we all want to explore the benefits of Fiori. We actually have to overcome a number of challenges for Fiori implementation. So firstly, you're not going to be able to plug and play a Fiori app in the place of a PDF form or a WebDynpro. Any custom interfaces and services that you've had developed are not going to work automatically with Fiori. You are going to build something new. Secondly, convincing budget holders that like for like actually isn't the way. Fiori provides us with this fabulous opportunity to revisit the working practices, simplify the user experience, and remodel the business processes. And we've found there are great benefits for organizations willing to embrace a significant change. Thirdly, you might find you need a PDF output anyway. So we've done a lot of work migrating customers from PDF form processes over the past 3 or 4 years, and it's remarkable how often there's a real need to generate an output document for print or archiving. Fiori apps do many things, but they are not designed to be printed. So it's great if you can get that designed out, but if there is a real requirement, then luckily we have the solution. And fourthly, embracing design thinking requires a move away from traditional transactional design. And I want to explain that in a little bit more detail. So first we had SAP transactions, and then there were BAPIs, and next came web services. And now comes gateway services, exposing the BAPI import and export parameters in an OData model that we can bind to a Fiori app. So the SAP toolkit provides us with a neat way of building an app for a BAPI, but that's entirely the wrong way around. Plus, in the real world, apps don't really call one BAPI, they might call several. So this requires a library of gateway services, laden with business logic, which can quickly become a nightmare to manage. So in the new world, we need to design for users, not for BAPIs. So we need to start with the users, define personas and design the simple apps for those personas. We can't do that with an SAP transaction or a BAPI in mind. We have to have the freedom to design the app disconnected from the BAPIs or the functions it might call. Plus, for multi-step processes, there is a need to stage the data because you don't want to trigger the SAP database updates until all the information is collected and approved. So there's a burning need for data staging and a business process framework to sit in between the app and the SAP BAPIs. So our approach. So Arch provides the business process platform to model existing PDF and WebDynpro processes or brand new SAP business processes using Fiori Apps. So our platform enables easy data integration between Fiori Apps, emails, output documents, and SAP updates. The Fiori processes can work just like form processes. For example, they can route through multiple approval steps, triggering notifications and updates along the way. So each data submission from the app is treated as a separate document in the database. So no data staging and full audit trail are automatically included. So this enables you to separate your app UX design from any SAP transactional updates. So you design for the user rather than simply pop a new front end into an SAP transaction or BAPI. So Arch provides the app process framework, and a key part of that solution is StayLow. StayLow is our Fiori app generator designed to greatly accelerate the development of custom Fiori apps. With StayLow, you can support complex app processes while delivering a simplified UX. There's no need to build and maintain any gateway services or custom interfaces. Instead, you add all your business logic inside StayLow, which is inside the SAP system. So with StayLow, your Fiori apps are easier to maintain using standard SAP configuration tools for the business and process logic and SAP Web IDE for the app styling. And by working with Arch, you can get started quickly and get self-sufficient quickly. You don't need HANA to use StayLow or any particular SAP enhancement pack. So with StayLow, it's faster and easier and cheaper. So how does it work? StayLow has three components, and all three are really powerful. Firstly, there is the StayLow core. This is the app process framework I've mentioned, and it installs directly on your SAP system. It provides abundant functionality for process design and integration. Most of this functionality has been built over 10 years, as it's the same framework we have used to process millions of SAP eForms. Secondly, we provide the StayLow plugin. This installs into the Web IDE and provides you with an app generation wizard to enable the automatic creation of working Fiori apps based on the definition in the backend system. The plugin is only used at design time. The resulting Fiori app is just like any Fiori app and can be deployed on-premise or in the cloud. And thirdly, we provide the StayLow application interface. This is a pre-delivered SAP gateway service that handles all the communication between the StayLow apps and the backend system. App data, drop-down lists, search results, attachments, everything is passed through a single STEM interface, which means that your developers don't have to build and maintain a library of complex SAP gateway services. Now, of course, if you already have gateway services, these can be consumed by the StayLow app too, because everything is 100% standard Fiori. So I'm not going to go into any more technical details today, but I'll be very happy to follow up on any technical questions after today's session. So when we're moving an existing PDF or WebDynpro solution to a Fiori app process, we recommend the following approach. So firstly, visualize the app, the new app. This means start with and focus on the user. What did they need to get done? What information do they understand? What language or terminology do they understand? Can we define personas for the app users in order to design a new experience around them? Secondly, define the end-to-end business process. So understand the needs of every process participant and what automatic rules can be put in place. Are there different ways of conducting work, perhaps event-driven, or dashboards we can help to prioritize the work? So now we've got that app and that document design and the underlying business process, we can map that into StayLow and add in all the business logic to fetch, manipulate and update the SAP data using standard APIs. And now we're ready to generate the Fiori app using the StayLow wizard in the SAP IDE. So then within the Web IDE, we can add our client-side logic. So perhaps we need to call different data services or add some scripting. And at this stage, we can add any custom styling and rearrange the fields to match the original visual design. Finally, we deploy the app to your Fiori Launchpad, just like any other Fiori app. Now I can demonstrate this whole process in a couple of hours, and of course, in real life, it might take a couple of weeks, but there is absolutely no need for it to take months. And we should say that the first two steps on here are not strictly necessary from any technical point of view. We could, of course, take an approach to analyze the existing PDF or WebDynpro solution, take that design and replicate it. And we'd be experts in that, but it would mean missing out on the opportunity Fiori provides us. So let me move on to some examples. We're going to take a look at two examples today. The first one is a demo we've built for a US travel organization. The business process covers a number of disciplinary actions used to manage very small to very serious infringements. The data, of course, is highly sensitive, and the process is relatively complex. There could be many process steps depending upon where the process is initiated and what actions are taken throughout that process. Now, at each stage of the process, different email notifications are triggered. So different notifications are sent to different process participants. And at various process stages, a PDF document is generated and sent either by email or saved to the LAN or sent to a separate document server. At the end of the process, a custom HR info type is updated, and that's really the easy part. So at the moment, this company uses a PDF-based HCM process and form solution, which is really keen to replace. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to start the project next month. So let me show you that now. Okay, so hopefully you can see that I've got Fiori Launchpad running on the SAP Cloud platform. I'm going to open my Progressive Guidance Fiori app here. Now when we open the app, the first screen we see is an employee list. Then we can filter and search for an employee, and the teams shown here respect an authorization check. So a team leader would only see the employees in his or her team. Let me choose an org unit, pull that team in. So once I've selected an employee, I'm initiating the process for them. This takes me to a detail page with an icon tab navigation, and we see some information is pre-filled and that I need to add a few data fields. You can see at the top there that the app can be saved to draft, and I can add attachments along the way. So I've just put something in these mandatory fields. I have one more field to add. And so now as a manager, I can submit this app. So once I've submitted the document, this triggers a notification email to the employee with the instruction to open up the app from their inbox. And I'm going to return to that notification later on. For now, I'm going to go to my inbox as the employee and pick up that document so we see the next step of the process. And here it is. So when I open the app as the employee, we see that it is exactly the same app, but now the data that was added by the manager is all locked down. And there are a bunch of extra tabs available to me. So the employee is asked to acknowledge this particular process and is able to put their side of the story if they so wish. And then can submit. So when the employee submits the document, it flows back to the line manager and a bunch more notification emails are triggered. So I'm not going to go through the rest of the process today as I'm short of time, but let's go ahead and look at those notifications that we've generated. So we should see 3 emails generated. I think one is still to arrive. 2 of the 3 emails are process notifications, pointing the new process owner at the item in their inbox. So here we can see that the email is generated by SAP and contains various data that we've captured through the Fiori app, alongside branding information. The 3rd email is a separate notification we're triggering to the HR admin team. Again, this includes key data, some key information from the app, and also includes an attachment. This attachment is a PDF output form, which has also been generated using the same dataset in the app. This is one of the output documents that is saved as a record on a separate employee file. So now we have an app, an email template, and a PDF form template all sharing the same dataset, so that all process participants can enjoy a great user experience. And this is what I mean when I talk about managing the experience for every person in the entire business process, not just the person who enters data into the app in the first place. I'm going to return to the slides to introduce the second example. Okay, the second example is an absence management app that we built earlier this year for Barnsley Council. This is a manager self-service scenario to provide the manager with an easy way to record and update absences in his or her team. At this stage, I'm going to hand over to Jen and Liam because they know much more about this than I do. So Jen, hopefully we can hear you.
Hi, thanks for that, Chris. Can you hear me okay?
I can indeed, yes, go ahead, yeah.
Perfect. So I suppose just a few words of background really from me to begin with. Barnsley have been working with Fiori for quite a while now. They have some library apps in there and some custom apps that they've built from the ground up. And during their sort of second phase, they decided to address some of the difficulties that they were having with absence recording, basically with a view to ultimately retiring the existing PDF eForm that they were using. So as part of that, a custom absence recording app was developed using Stelo to capture details of non-standard leave types, so things like volunteering. Here you can see the type of PDF that was used historically, and although the interface has been entirely redesigned for the app, we have been able to reuse a lot of the underlying aspects of the form. So the postings, for example, that make the updates to SAP, they were cloned from this form. If I could just share my screen now there, Chris. And log in so we can take a look at the app. Okay. So the app is accessed via the standard Launchpad, and it sits side by side with any library or custom built apps that you might have. You'll see it's a really simple app, by design I should say, but the devil's really in the detail in terms of how we've optimized this for the end user. It's a split screen layout, so we've got the staff absences on the left, and they're grouped by status in the master pane. So anything that's still in progress, like things that are draft or ongoing, are listed at the top, and then historical stuff can still be accessed at the bottom, so these submitted records. The search here is multifaceted, so the user can search the list by date or personnel number, leave type, etc., etc. We're actually going to create a new one today just by clicking on this icon in the footer. And to begin with, you'll see we've only got these two fields. The reason for that approach is really because there's a lot of dynamic behavior around visibility of the fields in these based on the selection. So if I select Mr. Gumble here and I say that he's on disability leave, you'll see we get a few extra fields to indicate the date period essentially. But if I pick something else, I'll get different subsequent fields. So here I've picked long-term illness, and we've got these additional cascading drop-downs. So once I've chosen a grouping, you'll see this reason drop-down becomes active, and it's populated at the point when I've chosen the grouping. So the actions down here in the footer, they're determined dynamically based on whatever workflow is being configured in the back end, and also the leave type as well. So for example, at this point I can submit or save or reset the record, but the option to save to draft isn't relevant to every leave type, it's only relevant to sickness. So on the disability scenario, for example, previously that option wouldn't have been visible. And the same applies to attachments. They're only relevant to illness-related absences, so this appears and disappears based on the leave type selected above. Adding the attachments is really quite straightforward. We just browse to the file that we want to add, and it's updated in real time to the content server. If I delete it, it is also deleted from the content server as well, so I'm not taking up sort of valuable storage space as well. If I click to reset the app, I'm challenged to make sure that that's a valid decision, because I would be losing some data, and the same applies if I click off somewhere else. Again, it flags that I'm going to lose the data. Now, in this scenario above for long-term sickness, unlike some of the other scenarios where the manager will kind of know straight away, the leave period, the date from and the date to, by definition, the long-term stuff is going to be potentially quite a long time in the future. We don't want to hang around in terms of updating SAP to indicate that. So this is a bit of a special case. When we create the long-term absence, we indicate the date from, and then when we do the update to SAP, we actually have a default absence end date of 31/12/9999. The end user has no visibility of that. That's kind of how we manage it in the back end. As far as they're concerned, it's just going to appear in the master pane as an ongoing record. So if I submit it now, we'll see the master pane refresh, and I've created a new ongoing record. We have displayed it on its own at the top because usually the most recent record in a master detail or split screen app would appear at the very top of the list. When you have grouping like this, it may be added further down because we've got that different sorting mechanism. So this is a convention also used in other library apps, whereby we only have the newly created record listed, and I can easily return to the full list like this. So now in this one, you'll see I've only got one field active, and it's this date to field. And that's basically there because that's the only thing I can now update. Everything else has been committed to SAP. If I submit it straight away, it's going to fail validation because I've not filled it in. If I put in a silly date, it'll complain with a more detailed explanation of what the problem is. And if I fill in something that's relevant and hit submit, that's it, gone now, and SAP's been updated. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of how we've used Stelo to kind of give Barnsley this smooth and effective transition from what they had with PDF to Fiori. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, Jen. So yes, on the back of that, perhaps I can ask a few questions of Liam and bring you into the conversation now, Liam. So,
Hi, Chris.
I mean, hi Liam, thank you so much for joining us. So Jen just briefly showed us that this app replaced the PDF solution. So, what were you, why were you trying to replace that old solution? So, what were the business drivers for you?
So I was just saying the old solution was PDF form within SAP FLM, which we then converted to HTML before the new app was developed. The existing form itself is outdated and it was causing us both technical and data issues due to its complexity. We found that staff were not really complying with policies due to the complexity of the form, so we wanted to tidy it up, make it much simpler and kind of Fiorify it. And we also wanted to make it more mobile based and available to use anywhere, so that staff were not reliant on coming into the office just to submit forms. The reason we've moved to Fiori specifically is because it is much simpler and easier to use, and it did allow us to make some more improvements, such as adding attachments and removing our obscure absence types as well. And in the future, we kind of envisage Fiori becoming a hub for staff to access on a daily basis to see what actions they need to take. Another way we're moving forward with SAP at Barnsley Council.
Great. So, how did you go about the app design?
So we started with some brainstorming sessions, and this was involving key staff from payroll, HR, and IT. And the business kind of identified 5 key absence types to use for initial development and allowed us the process to be more reactive rather than a weekly task. So we were working around what key fields need to be maintained in SAP for these absence types to be used. And during these sessions, we made sure that we were only dealing with the necessities, and we were able to understand and challenge the business requirements and drive out a much simpler design for a better user experience. We then took that design to Arch for them to build using the Stelo application. It didn't really take long for them to come back with the app built in our dev environment for us to test with. During the design and development phase of Arch, there were various tweaks made to the app, but the actual final draft of it was close to what we envisaged in the initial sessions that we did of blueprinting. So as a whole, we are actually really happy with the quick development and outcome using Stelo and Arch's help.
Brilliant. And what's the feedback been like from the users who've started using it?
Feedback from the pilot phase has generally been pretty positive. No one's really complained about the form, and the only queries we've really had are regarding the transition from using the old eForm to using the new app and how they manage the data through them. We've been live with the app to all managers now for around a month, and there's not really been any pressing issues from it at all. Most people have fed back that it is much simpler to use, and they're happy that they no longer have to complete the eForm on a weekly basis. So, even the payroll staff from their side, when they're monitoring the outcome of the eForms, they're finding it much easier and less of a hassle to control the data.
Yes. So it sounds like some of the improvements there aren't just because of the app, but actually the process change that is helping as well.
Yeah, definitely.
What would you have done? Sorry. So would you have done anything differently, or what learnings have come from this?
Definitely, I think so. I've kind of found that the app is very intuitive itself, and that's just like what Fiori is in general, but our users still quite require support. I think sometimes in IT you probably forget that some business users are not so comfortable with technology or new processes, so you have to hold their hand a bit more. We've experienced this with a number of different staff in the council, and so we've been exploring different avenues of providing help to them. We've already delivered various methods such as creating FAQs, creating a wiki guide, and different drop-in sessions in key locations around Barnsley. We also think probably could have handled communications a bit better around the use of the apps so that people were more aware, especially around the transition from the old system, because we're still finding people still using the old eForms, either because they're not aware of it or because they don't like the change in general. Yeah.
And what's next? What do you have plans? What plans do you have for the future?
Firstly, our main priority is that we need to get an upgrade of Fiori done. We haven't really had Fiori for that long, but we're finding that we're quite behind in terms of the UI5 library version. So we need to get this updated and look towards updating the code within the apps themselves as well. And then once that's done, we are hoping that we'll look to migrate the other forms onto Fiori and develop apps to generate payslips and P60s as well. We've also got a project with yourselves in the early stages of blueprinting around a new policy monitoring app for HR, which again is using Stelo. But we're also hopefully going to look at other areas of SAP to integrate that aren't based on HR. Mostly we're thinking of using SRM7 within Fiori for the shopping carts and POs, because we've got that as a system now, but it is rapidly becoming outdated on our landscape. So yeah, we've got quite a lot on the pipeline for Fiori. It's just finding the time to do it, as you can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So thank you everybody who's joined us here today, and a special thank you to Liam for supporting the session. So we'll follow up with a link to the recording of today's session and send you an invitation to the next webinar in the series, which is entitled Designing Easy Fiori Apps for Complex Processes. So during that session, we'll share some more real use cases and talk you through the design. You can find more information about Stelo on our website, archglobal.com. And so I hope you can join us again next time. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.